Yeah, the benefits of carbon-60, that it helps your body get rid of free radicals, which are molecules in your body that are missing electrons. These molecules here, they're made out of 60 carbon atoms, so they're very, very small. And as you get, it acts like an antioxidant, as antioxidants in food give up electrons, but they're very large. These things are extremely small in size, so whatever your health issue is, it's most likely caused by free radicals.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Holistic Navigator podcast, where we believe in the body's capacity for self-healing if it's given the proper nutrients and the care it deserves. My name is Brian Strickland. I'm the producer of the show, and here with me, as always in the studio, is your host, Mr. Ed Jones. On today's episode, we sit down with Bob Greska. Bob is a mechanical engineer by trade, but he's also the founder of Greska's Carbon-60. Carbon-60 is a very unique molecule. And in 2012, in a scientific breakthrough discovery, Mr. Greska created a non-solvent method to produce a non-clustered, non-crystallized, contaminant-free, monomolecular food-grade carbon-60. And while we know that's a mouthful, the really important thing to take away from carbon-60 is that it's considered to be one of the world's most efficient free radical scavengers. As a result, it balances pH and detoxifies the entire body at the cellular and mitochondrial levels. So with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and hop into this really unique conversation about carbon-60 with Mr. Bob Greska.
Thank you, and thank everyone for joining us again today with The Holistic Navigator. I want to remind people, and I'm very pleased, we looked last week, The Holistic Navigator's in the top 1% of podcasts, not in the United States, but in the world, under the heading of health. And I'm very proud of that. This should be probably 105 episodes over the past 3.5 to 4 years. And again, it is the encyclopedia that I have really put together to help empower people to learn how to improve their health, manage their health, and to be optimally healthy. Because the traditional methods today are great at treating acute situations, very poor at treating chronic. And we have to arm ourselves because the people that we used to trust for our health are really not being trained in this whole conversation. You know, everyone who's listened to me for a while knows that I've been around the block a lot. I've been doing this now 43 years. In fact, this January will be 44. And I love and I have a passion for the philosophy of self-healing. And I reach out to people who I respect, who are seekers. I guess I'll call the word seeker. And I love that word because if you're not a seeker, you're going to be a follower. And followers do less than good when it comes to health. And so today we're going to talk about something called Carbon-60 with Mr. Bob Greska. Welcome to The Holistic Navigator, Bob.
Ed, nice to be here. Thanks for having me here. And we'll get into carbon-60 and how it works and what it does and how it helps your health.
Absolutely. And I am a person who I guess I have called myself this, the universal guinea pig. If it sounds at all reasonable and it's backed up with some credibility, I will try everything first because I feel that it's my duty as the head honcho of this whole path to say, hey, I did this, it worked, it didn't work, it gave me this side effect, it gave me this positive effect. Well, I heard you on Dr. Lee Merritt's podcast when she interviewed you about the Carbon-60. And before we get into how it came about and your history, I want to go ahead and just kind of focus on why would a person even want to consider this for their health, because here's what I learned a little bit from that podcast and from reading your really good website. I have chronic inflammation that's tendonitis. Don't know where it came from. It's managed pretty well. It's not an injury. And I saw in there that the Carbon-60, which is a very unusual molecule, could be used to treat chronic inflammation. You said spray it on and take it internally. And I will have to say that I felt some pretty immediate, maybe 30 minutes after spraying it, it took the edge off my pain better than the CBD lotion and better than the other things I've been putting on. And that really triggered me to look deeper. And when I did, I realized that I have missed the boat on this carbon conversation. And I know that It does so many wonderful things like increase glutathione, which is part of the anti-aging protocol that we really focus on. And many people are just getting some great results, not only for themselves, but for their pets, which certainly means it's not placebo. What are some of the things that people could probably look for? And then we'll explain the technology and how to use this on Carbon 60.
Yeah, the benefits of Carbon 60, that it acts as an SOD mimetic, and it helps your body get rid of free radicals, which are molecules in your body that are missing electrons. And it does this in a very profound way. These molecules here, they're made out of 60 carbon atoms, so they're very, very small. And as you get, it acts like an antioxidant, as antioxidants in food give up electrons, but they're very large. These things are extremely small in size, so whatever your health issue is, it's most likely caused by free radicals. So when you have a free radical, it's a molecule missing electron. What the carbon 60 molecule does is, being spherical in nature, it's symmetric, so it's very structurally strong, so it can give up an electron without collapsing. And that's what it does. It gives up an electron, and it puts it back onto that molecule missing electron. Now that molecule that did not know what it was, and that molecule causes oxidative stress and damage to your cells and poor performance of your cells. So the carbon 60 provides that electron, completes that molecule, and then it functions properly. So almost, it's crazy. It's almost like no matter what your health issue is, they're caused by these free radicals, unless it's a broken bone or a mechanical defect. Inflammation, things like that are all caused by free radicals, and pain, and so it works very good and very quickly.
I like that explanation. And many, many years ago, I heard someone explain what is a free radical. And I love this analogy. If you think of a fireplace that usually have a screen on the front of your fireplace. You're burning real wood, but let's take the screen off. Sometimes these little pops of ashes will come out of the fireplace and they will burn a tiny piece into your carpet. That's what a free radical is. It's all these little bitty electrons that are actually damaging us as they shoot through our body. And when we can capture those through some other method, like maybe carbon 60 and certainly other health habits, then we're going to slow down the damage. And part of aging is accumulated damage. It's not short-term. It's the long-term 10, 20, 30-year damage, that and mitochondrial dysfunction, which also comes from damage to free radicals. So I love the fact that this soccer ball look that is unusual in nature, I think, isn't it, Bob, is the structure of carbon 60 is pretty kind of unusual.
Yeah, it was discovered in 1985. And so by 1996, it received a Nobel Prize, the gentleman that discovered it, Smalley, Kroto, and Curl. And that's the fastest anything has been Nobel Prize before, is this molecule. And they call them fullerenes or buckyballs after Buckminster Fuller. You remember the geodesic dome, the glass dome? So they named it in his honor because he was, in the 50s and 60s, he was a very forward-thinking architect. And there's four things that make a product work, and that's that's how clean it is, how symmetric it is, the balanced surface charge, and what's the other one? But anyways, the bioavailability of it. Mm-hmm. So being very small, they have the opportunity to float around in your body, and it's an oral supplement, and it comes in like a tincture. It comes in a dropper bottle, like such here. Or we have a spray on, which is a mist. You can spray it on your body. Either one works very well, depending what you're going after. We suggest people take the oral supplement on a daily basis and use a topical as needed for topical pain. These molecules are so small, they penetrate through the skin, muscle, bones. You put it on your tongue, they start getting into your body. And they get in extremely quickly, and there's over 100 billion carbon 60 molecules, over 100 billion in each serving. So they're very small and bioavailable, which makes them work. And it's clean. It's carbon. Carbon. They use carbon for activated charcoal, which is basically carbon for use of cleaning up water filters. Carbon, we're carbon beings. We're naturally, we have carbon in our body, and everything that's organic has carbon in it. Your plants, your trees, your body. All animals are carbon-based And part of the beauty of this is that when the carbon-60 molecule gets processed in your body, there's layers on here, and like a nano onion. And these hexagons are the building blocks, and pentagons are the building blocks for many of your RNA, your DNA, many of your nucleotides, and your ATP, which is your energy production, your powerhouse in your cell. And when you have this available in your body, and your body doesn't have to process food to make these pentagons and hexagons of hexagonal rings, they're right there available. So that's why we see the advantage of more energy within about 4 days, people taking it.
Oh, really? More energy within 4 days? I know how to not fool my mind. I've been taking so many supplements for 43 years, and I know that the mind can play tricks on us early on with a supplement because we believe it will work. But I do have a very strong sense that I can determine that there is a difference in how I feel by the use of the carbon-60. And I know, and we'll get into this a little bit, it's all about quality, absorption, whether it gets into the cells or not, because I know there's companies that are not making a product that probably does that. And I know I have confidence that yours is because I looked into it very thoroughly. And before I forget it, I really liked what Dr. Lee Merritt said on the podcast about tattoos. I found that very interesting. You know, I have 18 tattoos. There is metals in those. There's some toxicity in those. It's one of the few things that I kind of went over the line with that, you know, in health-wise, I probably shouldn't, but it was one of my little addictions. And she was talking about how it actually helps to detoxify some of this stuff. So it's a detoxer of seemingly a lot of chemicals. And I think, again, our health declines as the cup gets full as we live of toxicity. And we have to do something, whether it's multiple things like dry heat saunas, taking nutritional supplements that help, eating properly. Of course, the knife and fork is still the most powerful weapon. But I love these technologies where we can add something. One is that's easy. This product does not even barely have a taste. No one, including children, would have a problem with it. When I looked it up through traditional websites, all the way from WebMD to Wikipedia, everybody says it's a safe product. I mean, there's really maybe more studies are needed is the only thing, but it appears to be very safe externally and internally. Love seeing that. And I know it's going to grow in more studies as time goes on, but I've looked on PubMed.gov. There's a lot of studies on PubMed about carbon and carbon-60. Again, so energy, inflammation, anti-aging, those are three big ones there. What else can we learn about this carbon-60?
Well, you're right with the toxins and the heavy metals and everything like that. People that have a magnum fillings in their mouth, the mercury. Toxins, by definition, come into your body. They're electron stealers. They steal an electron. You steal too many electrons off of a molecule in a specific area, and if it's going to be in your liver or your kidney, you're going to have problems. And so with the carbon-60, since they're toxins or electron stealers, they're deficient of an electron. The carbon-60 has an abundance of electrons. It will give up an electron. And the symmetry, and since it gives up electron, it's only giving up there's about 90 electrons buzzing around these. So it only gives up like 1 or 2 electrons. So that's only like almost like 1 or 2%. So it doesn't affect it. And it gives an electron to the toxin. So the toxin can no longer steal an electron off of your molecule in your body. And so it basically neutralizes the toxin so it can't do any damage. And then it gives an electron to the damage that's been done. And if you look at your heavy metals, like your mercury and things like that, well, why are they so toxic? Well, the mercury, as you know, is a pretty heavy metal. It's dense. They have more, I'll get a little bit of chemistry here, more electrons and protons. So they have a stronger pull. They're a denser material. So with more electrons and protons and having a higher density, they can pull an electron off a molecule. That's what makes them more toxic. So all of your heavy metals work that way. All atoms are approximately the same size, within a third, the ones in the top part of the periodic chart. And that's what causes them to pull these electrons off. And the carbon-60, like you said, it has no taste. You just put it in your mouth, and or you can put it on your skin. You get UV damage from the sun, which also damages the free radicals. I mean, it causes free radicals, damages your skin by the UV, and knocks electrons off. And not only does the oil product, it's got a lot of vitamin E in it, so it helps your skin overnight. If you put it on your face, everybody will notice overnight. They'll see a difference, an improvement. I mean, it works that quickly. These things are small. I had one gentleman. He was having a seizure coming on in the back of his brain, and he called me up, and so I went over to his facility, and he said, because he couldn't drive, so he said, I wanted to take your product. I said, well, what happens if you have a seizure? Do I call 911? He said, no, it's been coming on all morning. I can feel it coming on. It's going to be a doozy. So I want to try your product. So he took it, he put it on his tongue, and within, seconds, less than a minute, he blinked his eyes, shook his head, and he said, it's gone. His seizure stopped. I mean, it went that quickly. It unbelievably, the topical mist, I'm blown away myself. The topical mist, you spray this on any muscle pain, soft tissue, it gets in there within 2 minutes, your muscle pain stops. And it's not a anesthetic. It basically goes in there and corrects the problem that's wrong and stops it from happening and causing the inflammation, causing the swelling. And there's nothing that's been like this product before. Like, it was discovered in 85, Nobel Prize in 96. They started studying it in the early 2000s. And there's one study which kind of put it on the map was they were trying to find a threshold. You said it was safe, which it is very safe, a threshold of toxicity, the LD50, and which is they give like a gram to a certain amount, and if you give too much, the animals die. There's a lethal, water has a LD50. You give yourself too much water, you're going to die. Okay, so they determined how much where 50% of the population would die, and they could not establish. There was no upper limit of the carbon-60. There was no threshold for it. And what happened is the laboratory animals, they lived to be 90% longer lifespan, almost twice as long of a lifespan. And they had no tumors or anything like that. Rats are very susceptible to tumors, and so all the tumors, they just didn't have any tumors. So it works very good. And there have been other animal studies too with radiation toxicity. That's a big threat right now. They gave the carbon-60 to some mice, and then they irradiated them with a lethal dose of radiation, and it did not affect them.
Really?
It kind of the radiation bounced off of them. But basically, it didn't really bounce off of them, but the radiation, as you know, ionizing radiation creates an ion, which knocks an electron off of a molecule, makes it an ion. And so the carbon-60, having it in your system or with these mice, it put it back on right away. So it immediately repaired the damage done by the missing electron.
I love that. And I don't know of another nutritional product that seems to be able to be down this exact pathway. And I want to say two things. One is, I remember Dr. Merritt talking about the heavy metals. And I think you told a story about a person who worked at a battery company that was tested for heavy metals. Right. And I also have experienced that with many of my customers. We have a plant here in our town that's a battery factory. And again, if they get over a certain limit, they don't get paid because they can't work. They have to reach that limit to go back down. Well, we were using EDTA, which is a normal chelation product in oral form. It's not real easy on the stomach. It's not terribly expensive, but it bothers me terribly. It's kind of not controversial, but I don't like taking it because it really bothers me. Well, it sounds like carbon-60 could do the same thing with far more ease. And then secondly, children that have perhaps heavy metals, that might have behavioral issues all the way from autism down the line, at what age can a child start taking this?
Any age. You can take it before, I've had a couple take it. They were on fertility drugs. They could not get pregnant. They took the carbon-60. 2 weeks, they were pregnant. Okay. Okay. So I've had a couple, they called me about a year and a half ago now, and their child was 3 years old. They took it through the entire pregnancy, before the pregnancy, through the entire pregnancy. And they said, I got to tell you, we got to believe it's a carbon 60. Our child is bright, alert, kind of ahead of everybody else. Well, if you develop where there's no toxins, I mean, you're going to develop, the way the body, the way it was meant to be. And so they were very happy and very, so their daughter was 3 years old at the time. And she was just, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed all the time, and just advanced, just more alert, more advanced than anybody else is that they were claiming. There's no age limit. You can take this.
Good.
I mean, it's 2/3 of a dropper. I have people, that take quite a bit of it. You don't need it all. You don't need that much of it. I have people drinking a half a bottle a day, which is 22 servings a day, which is kind of excessive, but they wanted to attack some people, some problems, and I've had some people that did it excessively right at the start, and they saw some amazing results very quickly. This one gentleman was in a car accident when he was 7 years old, and he's 40 years old, and for 33 years he had excessive pain in his neck and back, and he put it on his neck and shoulders, and within 2 minutes, after 33 years of excessive pain, sharp pain, the pain went away. I mean, this guy was ecstatic. I mean, he was a happy camper,
I'll bet. And I love the fact that it's slow dose, it's safe, it's not the cheapest product around, but if something works, that's all that matters. Now, I'm doing 2/3 of an eyedropper twice a day. Is that about the appropriate dose?
Yeah, you could do it once a day is what we suggest, but people do it twice a day. Initially, you probably want to start taking it in the mornings, because what will happen if you take it in the evening or start it out twice a day, you may notice your brain cells are a little bit more active because it's turning those molecules on that haven't been working, that have been laying there dormant. And so when it turns them on, you want to get up and do something. I have people said, I took your product. I was up to 2 doing my taxes. I just wanted to get up and do something. Taxes. Who wants to do taxes? But, it gives you that. For me, when I started taking it, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm a carbon engineer, but we'll get into that a little bit. But I've been doing this for 10 years, and I went through a stressful time during that. I had just a stressful time, let's put it that way. But it allowed me to be systematic, logically thinking, and just say, well, let me see. I've got to do phase 1, and let me get that done, and how to do that, laid it out in front of myself, in front of my mind. And then phase 2, let me get that done. And, it was just like a simple logic, like I wasn't stressed out. I said, well, I got to do A, B, and C. Let's get these 3 things done, and then I'll be back on track where I need to be. So, I mean, it gives you your personal stress, your emotional stress. I've had people take it we had an expo. We give a sample products out. We have these little pink Baskin and Robbins spoons that we give out a little tiny sample. And we hand it out to people. And I had one gal that came by, and she said, I just took your product 5 minutes ago. And I've been under a great amount of depression because I lost 2 family members in the last month. And so she took the product and she came back to me. She said, gosh, all my depression has gone away. I mean, this was 5 minutes, she came back over. So, I mean, the quickness of this works. It's the smallness of the particle and the bioavailability, how they get around in your body, and how clean the product is. That's important. Like you did mention, there are other products out there. They're just not as clean. I mean, I'm a carbon scientist for over 40 years, and I developed a process to produce clean carbon 60, and nobody else in the world has it. Which is great. We haven't patented it. We got a trade secret. We don't want to tell everybody how to do it. We just keep it as a proprietary process of making the carbon 60.
I love that, and I love. Obviously, it passes the brain barrier, or we wouldn't be feeling these quick effects on the mental state. And the thing you said about the way that you can think more clearly as far as categorizing the plan. Obviously, many of us who go through a difficult, stressful times, sometimes we become frozen. The brain just doesn't know how to go step by step to get the job done, get the day done, and this would be so fantastic. And then lastly, I want to get into your history just a little bit, is your comment I want to go back to about the parent who had the child who seemed to be developing so well. And with my 2 grandchildren, I've now become an observer of more children just because that's what happens when you have something change in your life. And I am not being insulting here, but a lot of children, and I think part of it's due to and I'm not anti-vaccine, but I also know there's toxicities within the vaccine that's overwhelming the physiology, and we have to use something to help counter that. And the thing is, a lot of children they're like in a daze, and they're just kind of staring off in the no man's land, or they just aren't clicking like what I remember children being like when I can remember, when I was 5 to 10 years old, looking at even younger children. It seemed like a different type of species we have today. And I love my grandkids have been raised with all of the right stuff, very, very sharp. They are very acute, very aware, very quick to respond. And that doesn't seem to come naturally anymore. So we need things to help us. And so get into a little bit, we got about 10 minutes, how you started, what made this miracle happen in your life that got you into this product?
Well, as I said, I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm a materials and processes. I study materials and I study processes. And I studied carbon. Actually, I studied it in college. I was like the center hub of the periodic chart, carbon, because it has 4 valence electrons that it can either bond with one bond, 2 bond, a couple double bonds, or there's 4 electrons to bond in, which is unusual for a product, for an element. And I studied carbon. I went into carbon fiber and graphite epoxy. I worked in the aerospace business and mainly with carbon. That we use our leading edges of the carbon of the leading edges of the wings on a space shuttle. I worked on the shuttle tiles also. I was a process engineer on that for the first shuttle that flew. I controlled all the processing parameters, of the shuttle tiles. And so I'm very well process controlled, and we had a need. I'm an inventor basically, and and I work with some friends, and we had a need for some carbon 60. And I said, gosh, I need some carbon 60. We needed some, and I said, I think I know how to make that. Not looking at how other people do it, and I went into it cold. And I've had a laboratory since I was 8 years old, so I went into my laboratory and put some equipment together and produced a speck of it, like a period, the dot at the end of a sentence, and just a small amount of it. I go, oh my gosh, this is going to be difficult. So, just producing any quantity of this. And so I made next time I ran it, made a head of a pin size, and then a BB size, and then a thimbleful, basically. So it took a while to scale it up. It took me about 3 years to scale this process up to make any appreciable quantities. But we had a thimbleful of it, and so we ran some tests and did this and that, and gave it to friends and family. And I got tired of the aerospace business because you're working on defense-related contracts, which is really offense. There's really no defense. It's mostly offense, and you're making bombs of mass destruction or parts of things that you don't even know you're working on. Because they only give you a certain component to work on. You don't give you the whole big picture. And so you work on all these things. And I said, I quit the aerospace business and started into, back in 1990, I started in the engineering world of making things for health and human performance. And I've done a few other things that have helped, some that are publicly known. Like an altitude simulation chamber that put a cyclist on top. On the Tour de France, he started winning because of that. Michael Phelps, the swimmer that won all the golds, he used the same technology to advance himself by simulating a high altitude, getting more red blood cells in his body. I did just one other project that all the springs that are the heels of running shoes, all the like Nike Air and the Z coils and things like that. Why I pioneered that market back in the early 90s, and that's when I started all that. And but other people knocked it off, and they put different types of springs in there. Mine were carbon fiber springs, and they worked very good. But yeah, I've got a diverse background in carbon, and we just developed it and started giving it to friends and family. And it was a startup. It's a bootstrap company. I went door to door and gave it to people and friends and family. And when I first was making that small amounts, very small amounts in the laboratory, I was in there all day. And, I filled the whole room up with this black dust, the carbon powder. It's so small it floats in the air. And I was breathing it for, 6 or 8 hours. And so I thought I might have, I thought I Madame Curie'd myself. I thought I toxified myself. I didn't know at the time. And so that evening I went home and I got on the computer and I started reading everything I could about carbon-60. And the more I read for 18 months. I stayed on the computer day and night. I studied, I read everything I could about carbon-60 and realized that this was going to be a healing product, and it doesn't have any contaminants in it compared to some of these other industrial grade carbon-60s. And I started, just bootstrapped the company and went door to door, like I said, and started selling it, and just grew a business out of it. And we have a tremendous company right now. I mean, a good sized company where we sell quite a bit all over the world. We ship it out daily. So.
That's wonderful. And I love your story, and I love the passion. People who get into something just to make money, generally it doesn't serve the public as well as people who, now we need to make money. It's all part of the fuel for a business. Right. But you were fueled by something more than that. You saw a light at the end of the tunnel that could help mankind. And again, the one thing you said about, the rats live almost double their lifespan. No, we're not rats. And yes, we don't know what will happen in humans. We can't test humans in a quick manner. But I'm 65 years old. Do you think I'm going to wait until you test it fully? I'll be dead. I won't be here. And if it's non-toxic, it has other health benefits, and it has the potential to do some of the things we've talked about, including increasing lifespan of animals to that degree. I don't know of anything else that I've seen that is really credible that has shown that much life extension for animals other than calorie deprivation. But that does it by an activation of sirtuin genes and other things that we can do. We can add all this together and make miraculous gains in our overall quality of life. So for people who want to learn more about this carbon-60 through your website, what is that, and how can they learn more?
Yeah, they can go to our website, and the website is C-60.com. So it's a www.c-60 and .com, or you can call direct. We have a live operator on the phone. Most of the time, I'll try to answer the phone, but our phone number is 720-600-6040. And you can call anytime. No problem. Weekends, it doesn't matter. We like to help people.
That's lovely.
And it's a quality of life that people are seeing. As you get older, you slow down. You can't get rid of those free radicals. Mm-hmm. And as people take it when they get older, the quality of life. Now, athletes also take it too. And every athlete that has taken my product, they have performed their all-time best.
Really?
Everyone, first place. Everyone that's taken it has taken first place. So it gets rid of the free radicals, the oxidative stress, the lactic acid that builds up. There's a process, a chain reaction that goes on to get rid of the lactic acid. And you don't have delayed onset muscle soreness either after you have a hard workout. So your DOMS goes away, delayed onset muscle soreness.
I love that. A friend of mine, Dr. Cowan, Cowan, really believes that heart attacks are produced by too much lactic acid in the heart itself, and that's not medically recognized. So anything that can lower lactic acid like this could be beneficial even just for longevity purposes. And of course, the Holistic Navigator is sponsored by nutritionw.com, and on that, your product will be on there under the label carbon-60 at nutritionw.com. Is there any last words of advice for anybody or anything you'd like to say before we close this episode?
No, just stay healthy, be happy, and, try the product out. If you'd like to give it a shot, give me a call or send it or get online. I'd be glad to talk to you, talk specifically about your specific health issue, what's going on. Of course, we can't go to mention health issues by name, but, they can't be, the FDA regulates us. We're a dietary supplement. We're carbon. We're not a drug. Mm-hmm. And, we don't have any negative reactions, contraindications with any medications or anything like that. We sold 100,000 bottles, let's say, somewhere in that ballpark. And I've got 13 people that don't like the product, which is nothing, and they don't like it because, they were too toxic, or they were too toxic. Yeah. They have a reaction against toxicity. But no, it's a great product. I suggest you give it a try.
I love it. I love your passion, your ethics, and I like the fact that you're available to help people if they have specific questions about the product at nutritionw.com. We also are set up for that, but we're not the expert in carbon 60. So for that kind of question, I'm glad you gave the phone number, and I'm very thankful for you and what you're doing, and I'm so appreciative that you joined me on The Holistic Navigator today, Bob.
Well, go to Nutrition World, everybody, and get a bottle and give it a try.
All right, my friend. We will probably be talking another 6 months to a year. We'll be updating any new information. I've only been taking this product for 2 weeks, so I'm still a virgin in regard to this, but I would like to update people in 6 months as far as the other people we hear about. So we may have you back on, and all the best to you, my friend.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate being on.
The information on this podcast and the topics discussed have not been evaluated by the FDA or anyone of the medical profession, and is not aimed to replace any advice you may receive from your medical practitioner. The Holistic Navigator assumes no responsibility or liability whatsoever on behalf of any purchaser or listener of these materials. The Holistic Navigator is not a doctor, nor does he claim to be. Please consult your physician before beginning any health regimen.